Okay, so starting with this bipolar junction transistor. So the full form of bipolar, this BJT is bipolar junction transistor. Okay. Bipolar junction transistor. So junction, okay, already we have accustomed ourselves with the junction. So junction is nothing but whenever we have P and N type of materials kept together, we have a junction in this uh, context here. Okay. In general sense, we can say that whenever we put two dissimilar materials together, we will get a kind of junction between those two materials. So here we are talking about the semiconductor materials which are having the P and N type of natures and they're kept together, so forming a kind of junction between them. Bipolar, we will see this relates with the type of carriers which contribute to the current. Okay, so bi means two, polar means polarity like positive and negative. Okay, so positive polarity corresponds to the whole carriers, and this negative corresponds to the electrons. So we have positive and negative uh, carriers both, which contribute to the current. So that's why these particular device is called bipolar. We shall also see unipolar, in which only one type of charge carriers contribute to the current, and that is nothing but field effect transistors. Okay. So later we will also see the discussions about the FET, in which we have only a single type of charge carriers which contribute to the current. So in the bipolar, we have contribute to the current junction. Here we have junctions similar to that of the PN junction, but we will see here that BJTs are going to have two junctions. Okay, two such PN junctions. The symbol of transistor, as we can see over here, it is having three terminal. One is called as here base, collector, and emitter. This is a symbol here. And if we try to look at the junctions, okay, cross sectional view from the inside of this transistor, then we will see either these two junctions, J1 and J2, or we will have these two junctions here, J1 and J2. Okay, so there are only two kind of possibilities here. Either we can start with P and then put N material, and then we again repeat the P here, or we can start with the N here, then we have P material and then N material. Okay, so only these two configurations are possible here. Either we have PNP or we have NPN. So based on these two possibilities, we have two types of transistors, namely called as PNP transistors and NPN transistors. Okay, we will see in details of these two transistors. The transistor word itself reflects a very unique quality of these devices, which assist in transfer of current. Okay, transfer of current over registers, okay, different registers, okay. What this means here, we will be able to understand it more in later part of this course here. For now here we should understand like this, that if we have a transistor here, and we give some input here and current here, say II, and there is some output current I naught, then this current is be actually this device actually transfers this current from a different input resistance to a different output resistance. Okay, so that's what it means here. Transfer of current over different registers. Okay, so this unique quality of this particular device uh, gives it a unique name, transistor here. So we have now tried to understand the literal meaning of the word BJT. So B stands for bipolar, J stands for junction, and T stands for transistor. Okay. So all these words have their unique qualities and describes some qualities of the this particular device, which is having two junctions. Either we have PNP or we have NPN. Let us indulge little bit of the history here. So it was William Shockley along with Bardeen and Breton at Bell Telephone Laboratories in 1947 who first invented is something called a junction transistor. It was not the same transistor as we see today, but it was a one can say a kind of point contact transistor. It was quite different than the transistor we see today. So, essentially, BJT has the ability here to transfer the current over different resistances. Okay, so we have say input resistance Ri and our output resistance R not here. So because of this ability here, we see something called as amplifying ability of this particular device. In general, actually, this device can amplify the current, it can amplify the voltage, and even it can uh, amplify both together, so that power levels, and we have increased power levels at the output. So these have several applications, and modern day one can say integrated circuit technology uh, depends on such a device which is quite similar to this, but that is different in working. Actually, nowadays a variant of FET is which we generally call as MOSFET. Okay, that is taking over the place of the BJTs. But in earlier days, okay, in 80s, 90s even, we had the BJTs which ruled the IC technology. But now it is taken over by the MOSFETs. So MOSFETs also we will try to look at the latter part of this course, okay. But historically, BJT came first, so we uh, start with this. But we should note here one very interesting fact about the transistors, that even though the BJT was invented before first here, in 1947, and these FETs and MOSFET, they were actually invented in 60s, okay, 1959, I think. So, uh, but the concept of MOSFET, okay, the concept of MOSFET was first put it before the BJT concept, okay. So conceptually, MOSFET existed much before the invention of the BJT. Around 1927, okay, the concept of MOSFET was coined by someone called as Lilienfeld. Okay, he even patented this idea, and this was revealed only after the invention of the BGTs, that someone has already patented the idea of MOSFETs. Okay, when the MOSFET was invented in the 60s, people were excited that we have invented something new, but it was discovered later that the idea was already existed much before its invention. But because of some technological obstacles, uh, it couldn't be realized at that time. So BJT came first, okay. So that's why uh, um, we are trying to look at the BJT first here. BJT is having three terminals called as base, emitter, and collector. As the names emitter and collector we can see here are given to two terminals according to their actions. Okay, so emitter means actually something which emits, uh, and collector is something which collects that emission. So emitter is here in our case is emitting the electrons or say holes, and that is being collected by the collector. And base is something which is going to regulate the rate of collection of or the rate of emission of the these charge carriers electron on holes. So basically, uh, the idea of this transistor resembles with that of the vacuum tubes, which has been invented much before these BJTs or FETs here. So something called as vacuum tubes existed much earlier than this, like triodes and pentodes. Okay, so in that we had something called as anode and cathode, and there was something called as grid in between, which by changing the potential of the grid, one can control the flow of the charge carriers between the cathode and anode, and hence one can change the current. So vacuum tubes existed much earlier, but these devices are solid state devices. Okay, so in these solid state devices, no air and no other things are involved here. So device is made of the solid material here, semiconductor, and these are going to be much smaller in size, and very lightweight as compared to the vacuum tubes. Okay, so that's why these devices, even though they resemble in working with the vacuum tubes, okay, these have taken over nowadays, and we don't see vacuum tubes now, but we see everywhere these solid state devices involving the MOSFETs, FETs, BGTs together. So amplification, the foremost point is here that amplification in the transistor is provided by passing input current signal from a region of low resistance to a region of high resistance. So that is the very basis. Okay, so that's what also we have seen that the word transistor is there, that we are able to transfer the current over different resistance. So different resistance is that from low resistance of the input to the high resistance of the output. If we are able to transfer this, we get the amplification. This is called actually voltage amplification. The reverse of this, if we have suppose we one passes the uh, signal of current signal from high input resistance to a low output resistance, then one will get current amplification kind of thing. Okay, so these are the different things which are, which can be done. Let us have now, after this brief historical part here, let us look at the construction of these transistors here. As a little while ago we advocated that we have two types of transistors possible here. One is PNP transistor and there is NPN transistor. So PNP transistor is on the left side and the NPN transistor is on the right side here shown. So in the PNP transistor, as we can see that we have P, then we have N, and then we have P. Whereas in NPN, we have N, then we have P here, then we have N. By convention here, we show the emitter on the left side, whereas the collector on the right side here. But this is not a hard and fast rule here. One can also change the placement of these. Here in these figures, one can see that the emitter and collector seems to be symmetrical in nature, but it is not symmetrical. Okay, if we look from the inside of the transistor, then emitter and collector are not symmetrical. Okay, whereas here it in the figure it seems that it may not matter whether we label any of these regions by emitter or collector, whereas base is in the middle of the different type of material. Okay, so we have two junctions here. The junction on the emitter side, that is called
Sir,
as, yes,
uh, in the emitter and collector case, whose doping level is high?
yes, as we will be discussing about that. Okay, in a moment. It seems that's why I put at this remark here. Na, emitter and collector seems to be symmetrical, but indeed they are not symmetrical. Okay, so non-symmetry comes from the point which you are pointing out here, that they are not symmetrically doped. Okay, that is one thing. Another thing is that they are not of equal size. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so these are the non-symmetries. That's why we cannot replace the emitter with collector. We will see. Okay,
Okay.
so from this this is actually a cross-sectional view here, which we are able to see on the screen. Uh, so let us have a, suppose actually if we look at the suppose we have the transistor and we cut from the in front. Okay, then we will see something like this here. We will see a something called as substrate, and then we will see some of the regions like this here. So let us look at what these regions are here. So sometimes substrate and this region, okay, they may be same here, but here we are just assigning. So the biggest region which we see is will be called as collector, whereas the middle region is called as base, and the smallest region which we see is emitter actually. So this is a p-type doped, n-type doped, and p-type doped. So this is the p and b transistor. So we may have a p substrate here. We may have a p substrate which is lightly doped. We may put a region here which is heavily doped, little higher than this. Whereas we have this base here which is moderately doped, and this emitter region is heavily doped actually. Apart from this, we do have the something called as contacts here from these regions, which may also be visible sometimes. So we have here a contact for the emitter. We have a contact for the base, and we have a contact for the collector here. Actually, collector is very big region which we are not able to show here. Collector. So we have these three terminals like this. Okay, so construction wise we see that the collector is the biggest region here. Area wise, collector is biggest region, and the base is in between, and emitter is seems to be smallest region here. So area wise we can see this. Actually area of base may be smaller in the sense that it is sandwiched between emitter and collector, okay, and that is very, we will see that actually base is going to be very thin region due to certain uh, requirements of this device here. We will see that this base has to be very thin. So area of this, okay, may be smaller than emitter, but because this base is coming in between, okay, that's why we are writing here right now.
Sir,
Yes,
actually the base is smaller or bigger than emitter?
base may be smaller actually, but it seems that it is having acquiring large area, okay. So real scenario may be like this here, okay. So this is a emitter, and this is a base, and this is a collector. So collector is the biggest region. Emitter seems to be, if you look at this area, okay, this area, then it is going to be bigger for the emitter. But if you look at the area which it is going to share with collector, or this base, this emitter side, okay, then you see that this base is having a bigger area, okay, exposed area to the collector or emitter, okay, like this. Collector is sharing area, cross-sectional area with base only, whereas base is sharing its area with the emitter also. Okay, so in that way, base may seem to be bigger in area as compared to the emitter. But if you look at, if we look at this area here, total area of the emitter, and this total area of the collector, and this total area of this base also, then emitter area is bigger, of course, than the base, and the collector is having the largest area. Okay, so in reality we will see that this is the if we look at the total areas, okay, of collector, emitter and base, then collector is going to be biggest one, emitter is going to be smaller than that, and base will be lowest. Even though it is sharing the boundaries with emitter and collector, the base one, because the thickness, okay, thickness of this region, I am just saying here that the thickness of this region, okay, this region is very small. If it is too large, then what will happen here? Some carriers which are emitted here will recombine here and will not be reaching on the collector boundary. Okay, so that's what the requirement is. That base has to be actually it has to be thinner. Okay, so this is what we will see here. So this we can say that boundary areas. Okay, boundary area we see, then collector is having the largest boundary, followed by base, and followed by emitter, and base is the thinner region, thinnest region, one can say. So what is the graph which actually we show most of the times in the uh, this definition of this say P and P, we are showing these regions only. So what these regions show here in this diagram? These are nothing but a part of this is taken here like this, which takes uh, a part of emitter, base, and collector together, and show here this small part, and everywhere else we see any okay, anywhere else here, then also the similar thing we can find out anywhere else also. So we only study a part of this emitter and base and collector, whereas the actual scenario may seem to be something like this here. Okay, so and also let us have a brief discussion about the level of doping here. So level of doping, emitter is ABC, then doping, emitter is heavily doped, whereas collector is slightly doped than this, and the base will be actually seem to be lightly doped out of either emitter or collector. So this kind of doping we will see here because of some regions which will be of course clear as we discuss more in this. So now we have just seen here that what this part P and P or NPN represents to in reality, what they look like and what we draw over here. So only a part of the region of actual transistor is shown here for the concept point of view, whereas the real scenario is quite different. So the symbol for PNP transistor is something like this here. So base is in between here, collector and emitter. Whereas for the NPN transistor, we have this symbol here. So we can see here that generally we draw an arrow in the emitter leg, and this is due to some reason that shows the direction of the current flow. Okay. So direction of the current flow is shown by the arrow in the emitter leg. That will be more clear as we discuss how the current flows in the transistor. So to make this particular device to work, similar to the PN junction, we have to actually bias these junctions. So these junctions are nothing but either nothing but the PN junction. So to forward bias this, we have to apply a positive voltage on the P side and negative voltage on the N side. And to reverse bias this, we have to apply a reverse potential of this. So to reverse bias this, we have to apply a negative voltage on the P side and a positive voltage on the uh, N side. Okay, so that's what. So this is reverse bias and this is forward bias. So similar thing also we have to take care here that either we want to make the any of the junctions to be forward bias or reverse bias, we have to apply some voltage as here for reverse bias and forward bias. So again, one more thing here before proceeding further, we would like to see here one more thing that in a transistor we see two junctions. One is emitter junction, one is collector junction. So this could be either PNP transistor or this could be NPN transistor. Irrespective of the type of transistor, we have two junctions here. Emitter and collector and base. These are the names of these terminals. So depending on the collector and emitter junctions, we can either forward bias both, we can reverse bias both, we can forward bias uh, one and reverse bias another one. Okay. So we have these total four possibilities. Okay. With these two junctions, we have these four possibilities. So forward bias. Okay, when both junctions are forward bias, what happens? We shall see. One very simple one case is that when we have both junctions reverse biased, what happens? When both are reverse biased, then we see that there is no current. Okay, so the same thing will also happen here because both are reverse biased. There will be no current, and there is no doubt that the device is off. Whereas, depending on which junction is going to be forward bias, which is going to be reverse bias, we have different scenarios. And what happens when both junctions are kept forward bias? We will see. Excuse me. Okay, so we will see here that mostly we will have emitter junction forward bias and collector junction reverse bias for the normal operation. For the normal operation of the this device, we generally forward bias the emitter junction and reverse bias the collector junction. Whereas when both junctions are forward bias, then this goes into something called as saturation. Whereas when we reverse bias the emitter junction and forward bias the collector junction, then this is called as reverse operation. Okay, so this is not normal operation, but this is reverse operation. So as already we have seen, discussed a little bit that the emitter and collector, they are not symmetric. Okay, so the behavior, okay, or the characteristic of this device in normal operation mode and reverse operation mode are not going to be symmetric as well. Okay, there will be some difference. So in the normal operation, the characteristics which we get may not be found when we operate the device in reverse operation. That's what we will see also. Okay, so the transistor can be, this device can be operated in reverse operation. Okay, but we cannot expect the similar characteristics as we get in the normal operation because emitter and collector are non-symmetric. Okay, so with this view here, there are some potentials applied here between at emitter junction. This is emitter junction, this is collector junction here, emitter junction and collector junction. So these are just nomenclature here. The voltage applied between emitter and base, that is called as VEB. The voltage between collector and emitter, that one is calling as BCE. The voltage between collector and base, one is calling as BCB. And the current entering into the emitter is IE. The current entering into the collector is IC, and current entering into the base is here called as IB. So here in this transistor also we can see that the transistor is just like a kind of a node here. Okay, so if we assume this transistor as a node, then we see that a current IE is entering into this, IB is entering from one side, and IC is entering from the other side. So there are three currents entering into here, but at a node we see that something called as KCL has to be fulfilled, current Kirchhoff's law, that is total current in is equal to the total current out. So IE plus IB plus IC must equal to 0. Okay, so no node can generate on its own any current. That's what it is saying here. So KCL is going to also hold here. Similarly, KBL also one can try to look at in this any of these. Okay, transistors one can see that we have here three terminals. Okay, Let me take one again, white page. Collector, emitter, and base. Okay. Suppose this is the arrow here going to the emitter side from the base. So this is actually NPN transistor as we have seen. So voltage drop between say collector and emitter is BCE as we have said here. Voltage between collector and base is say BCB, and voltage between base and emitter is say BBE or BEB we have called. So BCB is the voltage between this collector and base, and voltage between base and emitter is BBE here, and suppose BC is the voltage between collector and emitter. So here also we can write the KVL saying that BCE, the voltage between collector and emitter, is nothing but voltage between collector and base and voltage between base and emitter. This is also going to hold. Okay, so this comes due to the KVL. So voltage drop between two nodes, collector and emitter, is going to be equal to the from which way we are going to reach from collector emitter. It is immaterial now. We can from one side it seems that we are going directly from here to here, and from other go we are saying it seems that we are going from collector to base, then coming from base to emitter. The voltage drop is not going to change. The algebraic sum of the voltage drops between collector and emitter remains same, and from which path we come to this, that is immaterial. So this is also going to hold apart from this one thing which we have just seen, IE, IC, and IB. If we have these currents here, then IE plus IC plus IB has to be equal to 0. Okay. So it means that if IE and IB are the incoming currents, then IC, if IE and IB are incoming currents, then IE plus IB must be equal to IC, which is outgoing current. So we have to actually, if we assume this, then we have to reverse this current direction IC. Okay, this is outgoing. Okay, so just we have today tried to understand here that how the transistor looks like here. The transistor is having a bigger size, in which we have the three regions, mainly emitter, base, and collector. The collector has the biggest size, emitter has the lower size than the collector, and the base is having the smaller size. And in the doping wise, if we look at, but that is not clear why we are taking such kind of asymmetric doping as well. Emitter is heavily doped, collector is moderately doped, and base is lightly doped. So these are the things for the transistor. Okay, transistor symbol we also try to see today. So NPN transistor and PNP transistor symbols are shown over here. The main difference which we can see is in the arrow here. So in the NPN transistor, the arrow is going toward the emitter, whereas in the PNP transistor, the arrow is going toward the base. So that is the difference here. The below figure shows here the diode junctions, okay, the PN junctions which form between emitter base and collector base. Okay. So these are nothing but they behave, okay, these junctions behave similar to the diodes when they are forward bias or reverse bias, and we can understand the working of this transistor by relating its behavior with the diode characteristics. So these characteristics we shall resume in the next lecture. With this, we stop here today. You can also look at some details of this transistor from your own and try to see the little bit of the history of this transistor as well. If you have any questions, you can discuss. Yes, we stop here today.
So you have said there is a substrate part. What is this substrate?
Substrate is that thing on which we put our device. Okay. So every transistor, every device that has the substrate. Nothing can be without substrate. Okay.
What is its purpose?
Purpose is that substrate is there to give the mechanical strength, okay, on something, some base, okay, on which our device is going to uh, put it, okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Huh, huh.
Sir,
Yes.
in that view where you were showing us emitter, base, and collector, and that substrate part, what was that view like? If we are having an actual transistor, from where we cut, then we can see that those four parts,
Four parts.
like
Which
base,
four parts?
emitter.
Base is not an active region, okay. Active regions are mostly closer to the surface, okay, and the current flows through the active regions. The current doesn't flow through the substrate. Okay, so substrate is
Okay,
not
so
shown mostly. Huh.
if we cut that transistor from the upper side, we will see only two parts, emitter and collector.
No, no, from the top side you will see nothing, okay? You will see just a contacts like emitter contact, base contact, and collector contact, nothing else.
Okay,
So one has to put okay, the transistor in front of you and just cut from the vertical, okay, so that the front view is in front of you.
getting it, sir. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We stop here.
Thank you, sir.